Okay, so Sean asked me to talk about Midvar Sheker Tirchak, so we'll do that briefly. But before I get to rabbinic positions, as I mentioned to Sean before, I happened to be listening to a shir yesterday where they mentioned the Qumranite position in the Dead Sea Scrolls on Midvar Sheker Tirchak, which threw me for a loop, so I went to check it out. If you don't believe it, as I didn't, you can go online, you can check the actual microfilm, and you can go to 1QS, which is just one Qumran scroll, right? Column 5, line 15, okay? So they think Midvar Sheker Tirchak has nothing to do with what you think it does. In Qumran, they think they were obsessive about keeping away from people who didn't keep purity laws as they understood them, like so obsessive, and that's why they moved to caves in the middle of nowhere, because they couldn't be near all these barbarians who didn't keep the laws of Tumah and Tara in Yerushalayim. So for them, Midvar Sheker Tirchak have nothing to do with such people who are the representation of falsehood, the instantiation of evil. Right? That's what it means for them. Midvar Sheker Tirchak is stay away from such people at all costs. This is part of their whole, children of light, children of darkness nightmare, right? The whole world for them is very black and white, and they're constantly fighting evil. But for them, Midvar Sheker Tirchak means keep away from those people who express falsehood in like the fundamental sense of that by not keeping the law as they understand it. Okay, that's a wild shot. We don't take that. That's not classic interpretation. Okay, so what is Midvar Sheker Tirchak? And why is it expressed as it is? We might have done this last year. I don't know, but Sean asked to do it, so we'll do it again. Or years ago. I don't even know. I have no idea anymore. Okay. So there are Rishonim who take this as a general obligation to speak the truth and not to lie. They like to say for HaChinuch. Here I'm using just the summary from Ray Feldman. I think I did it last year also. In his The Right and the Good, Ray Feldman writes excellent books on Ben Adam Lachavero and the sugyas. He's written 2 on generic sugyas and then 1 just on Lashon Hara, and like journalism and things like that, which is really good. That incorporates a lot. You'd actually really like that one, Adam, because it incorporates a lot of insights of modern psychology, which he thinks explain a lot of the halacha of Lashon Hara in terms of heuristics and things like that, and how it is that Chazal could say that you can't say things which are true, right? So he develops there a lot that things that seem true might not actually be true because they're technically true as if they're factual, but if you say it, you might create a heuristic which will then make the person in the future not be able to view that person in a fair light, right? So it'll actually generate falsehood. So some really do say that it is a commandment to speak the truth. Then, despite the fact, that we normally would interpret it as don't lie, some of the Rishonim who take this really do think that it's not. It's a positive commandment because it isn't framed as don't lie. It's Midvar Sheker Tirchak, which is a bizarre phrasing, but therefore Rishonim like the Smag think that it's biblical, but it's biblical as an assay, and they do extend it to all private citizens. Okay. However, the Yereim, Re'elazar Amit, does not believe this. He thinks that it is biblically prohibited to lie, but he doesn't think that lying per se is actually problematic. So if I lie and it doesn't affect anybody, like Sean asked me, how are you doing this morning? And I say, good, when what I really mean is, I'm really annoyed that everybody is oversleeping or something like that, right? Nagid, as a theoretical, right? So that would be usher according to many Rishonim, but according to the Yereim, it's not. Because the Yereim thinks it's not usher to lie. It's usher to hurt people by lying. And therefore, if there are no consequences to your lie, he doesn't think, at least it's under the biblical prohibition of Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Sheker doesn't mean a falsehood. It means a falsehood that is meant to inflict harm. He might think that rabbinically it's prohibited to lie at all. That's how others, like Rav Avram Abba Schiff, interpret the Uraim. But biblically, maybe not. Rav Yochanan Fishel Perla goes farther, and he says no. Even rabbinically, if there's no victim, then it's not usher. Right? Lying is just another way in which you might hurt people, and it is not prohibited even to lie, even rabbinically, to lie when it's not going to hurt someone. It might not be the nicest thing. It might be a midah miguna. It might be not the the best, but it's not usher. However, in the context of the Gemara, when does the Gemara quote Midvar Sheker Tirchak? Most of the discussions, as they appear in Shavuot, in Daf Lamed Aleph, are in the courtroom context. There are other places, like in Ketubot Daf Yud Zayin, where the Gemara seems to invoke it in not courtroom context. But the primary sugya in the Gemara, the most extensive sugya, is about the courtroom. And therefore, one can make an argument that it's not even just a general obligation to avoid falsehood or tell the truth, but it is in the context of the court. Again, there are other Gemaras that don't imply this. Again, like the Gemara in Ketubot, which is well known, right? The Ketzad Meraktin Lifnei Akala, right? What do you say to the bride or to the groom about the bride? Where Beit Shammai says if she's ugly, you can't lie, right? You got to say, find something nice to say that's truthful, but don't lie. So we do invoke it in that context. We invoke it in Yevamot. In the context of when you're allowed to lie for shalom. But one could, in theory, make an argument those are maybe asmachtas, and the primary chiyuv is in the context of the court, and not more generically. And now it could be that context is what led to the Uraim's position, right? Which is maybe it is more expensive than court, but the fact that the primary discussion is in court is what tells you that it's lying with consequences that's problematic, and court may just be the paradigm of that, but it does teach you that lying is not per se the problem. It's the type of lying you would find, right? Perjury u'di'imei, right? Lying in a way that damages, even if not in court. Now, what is the nature of this mitzvah, chiyuv, isser, whatever you want to call it? Ray Feldman summarizes there's two basic views. One is to say that whatever it is, it's a function of the obligation to have a refined religious personality, and being dishonest is anathema to that. And in that spirit, he writes, one can understand the lashon of tirchak, stay far away. Rather than being geared towards a specific act of lying, the message is that dishonesty is extremely harmful to the soul in and of itself. In fact, Elazar Friedman suggests that tirchak requires avoiding being one who hears lies, not just avoiding being one who tells them, right? So that might explain tirchak. If it's about, developing a certain type of character trait, so it's not just about the act. It's about the whole atmosphere, right? The whole personality that goes with being a dishonest person. The alternative, as we already saw from the Uraim, is that maybe, no, it's lying is a way in which we hurt people, and that's why it's problematic. Right? Now, again, even if you want to say that it's usher even when it doesn't hurt people, you can say that because it's a derivative of that. Right? But it's possible to say that and in that sense, we could think of it not as a personality, right, as a virtue-based one, but rather as a interpersonal crime. Now, right, one nafkamina to this, as Ray Feldman highlights, is the question of how easy is it to actually reverse. Right? If it's about the character trait, if I then tell the truth, that might not help as much, right? Meaning, if it's about damaging someone, so if I can solve the problem by now telling the truth, so fine. But in terms of a character trait, it's actually harder, right? Meaning you can't just tell lies your whole life and then reveal the truth at the end, right? You're still not exactly an honest person. It would take more to really perfect the character. The last thing I think that we'll have time to discuss is the question of tirchak. I mean, whatever it is, why is it that it's framed this unique way as keep away from rather than al tishaker, right? Don't lie or mashu kazeh. So one possibility is just it's really bad. So stay far away, take extra precautions to make sure you don't end up there. That's basically the way the Orchot Tzadikim takes it. Similarly, many say that what it means is not only can you not tell a certain lie, but you shouldn't tell doubtful lies, right? Tirchak, meaning stay away from possible falsehood. And that's what tirchak is doing. Rav Zalman Saratsky in his Oznaim L'Torah says no. The reason it says tirchak is because even though halacha recognizes there are cases in which you have to lie, we want you to remember that this is really a b'diavad situation. Because fundamentally lying is not great. So even if there are times when you have to lie and that's legitimate, we use this cautionary language to remind you that that's like a bitter pill you have to swallow sometimes. But remember, it's bitter. Remember, it's not a good thing to lie, even if it's the right thing to do in this circumstance, right? Honesty is still so important that even when you have to lie, right, we want you to feel that distaste. Another possibility is that it might be that you have to go out of your way to make sure that something is true. So Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, for example, says you shouldn't say things like "go to so and so and he'll tell you what I have said," because I don't have control over what he's going to say, and therefore, even if I'm confident, I'm now committing myself to something which might not be true. And even though the other person knows I can't really commit to it, right? Tirchak, stay away from things where not just it's a suffix, where you might put yourself in a situation where you've committed yourself to something that you can't actually guarantee will be true. He further says, Sefer Hasidim says, if someone looks depressed, don't push, and they don't want to talk about it, don't keep asking them what's wrong, because they're going to end up lying to you. Right? Tirchak means not only can you not lie, but you shouldn't press people in ways that's going to encourage them to lie just to get you off their back. So that may be what tirchak is as well. They note that therefore it's also also to lie even by nodding your head and right, definitely by writing. In some, I'll just read it to you. Rabbi Yonah lists 9 categories of people who fall into the category of violating Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Just reading from Feldman. 1. One who, through dishonesty, causes a financial loss to another, primarily represented by swearing falsely in court. 2. A falsehood that does not directly harm another, but creates a situation in which this is likely, such as dishonesty drawing a person into confidence. 3. One who does not actually cause another's money to be lost, but takes steps that will prevent another from profiting appropriately. 4. One who relates events in an inaccurate or false manner, but on a topic that will not impact negatively on the listener in any way. 5. One who makes a promise to another with the intent of reneging. 6. One who promises sincerely but later does not live up to his commitments. 7. One who unjustly tries to secure the gratitude or good opinion of another. Gneva da'at. 8. Similar to the last item, one who takes praise for qualities not actually possessed. And 9. Similar to item number 4, but the speaker gets some pleasure out of his dishonesty, though in a non-monetary fashion. So taken together, what you get is again, it might be a personality trait. It might be about damaging others. It might primarily be in court, but it might be derivative elsewhere as well. Tirchak might tell you it's really bad. Try to avoid it even when mutter, even when it's mutter. Recognize that it's a bad thing. That's not ideal. Don't even say things that you can't be sure are true that might generate falsehood. And at the end of the day, the reason that we seem to be so committed to this is, as Chazal say elsewhere, is chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet, right? That we see the notion of honesty as being definitional to godliness, and that's why falsehood is particularly insidious and invidious to the goal of godliness. Okay, so that's some perspective on Midvar Sheker Tirchak, and then.